Tonight we're going to be talking about intuition, awakening intuition, creativity, and healing. And I'm so happy to be here with John and Honey. So happy because my dream as a psychiatrist has been to get it out of the head and into the body and into intuition. And to be able to be here with musicians such as these, with the quality of talent they have and also the quality of energy that they transmit, is quite special for me. I'll always remember this night. This is very, very special for me to be here. And I hope as you listen to us, and we have some time together tonight, we have a couple of hours and it will go fast, to be able to listen not only with your head, but to begin to listen with your body and your intuition and see if you can get something tonight that you can take with you. And some of it will be through the music. The music will be interspersed. It's quite experimental, and we're really intuitively improvising for the most part here. So it will be interesting, but I want you to, as you're sitting there, to try and take a few deep breaths and just come into your body so you can be here with us in a way that you can hear some of the intuition that's coming through you. And so my passion is bringing everything I learned in traditional medicine, because I think there's so much truth there. There's such tremendous truth there. And also incorporating intuition and spirituality and an appreciation of subtle energies, the chi, the energy fields we give off. And I was a little girl who was extremely sensitive. I would pick up things all the time. I would have intuitions about pretty scary things like deaths and illnesses, and I'd always know about earthquakes, or I frequently know about earthquakes. And I would tell my parents these things, and they would get so frightened, and they wouldn't know what to make of it. And my mother finally said to me, how can you keep saying these negative things about my friends? But they would have a friend that would come. I remember one in particular. He was very handsome and wealthy and picked them up in this big car and took them off to a party. And I had this intuition or the sensing of energy that he was going to make a suicide attempt, but that something wasn't right. It felt like a kind of vapor coming towards me. It was an intuitive sense. Children often feel this, where they can sense energy, or the energy that comes from the body. And I remember telling my mother this, and I said, I don't feel good. I don't want to be around him. And she said, how do you say these things? You don't even know him. And with intuition, in a way it doesn't matter if you don't know someone with your mind, because children and many adults, and perhaps you can reflect on your own childhood, what it was like to sense and know things from an intuitive point of view. And so I felt like I was saying something negative to my parents. There wasn't any way I wanted to make them unhappy. And so it turned out a few months later, actually, he did commit suicide. And it was at that point that my parents said to me, never mention another one of your intuitions at home again. And to a child, you can imagine what that felt like. Because children's intuition needs to be nurtured. It needs to be embraced. Intuition is the most natural, powerful, organic, seamless way of interrelating with our environment. And so when I would go into these crowded places, I didn't know that I was picking up energy, and because of the way my body was so sensitively wired, I could go into crowded places such as this and get totally overwhelmed. And I didn't know what was happening. And I remember going to my mother, and she said, "Oh no, dear, you just don't have a thick enough skin." Oh, you know, we've all been said. People have said things like that to us, and you know what that feels like. It just feels like you immediately shut down. And so I grew up believing there was something wrong with me in terms of my intuition, in terms of sense. And I also was a dreamer. At a time, you know, when I was kind of going downhill, I was sent to my parents forced me to go see a psychiatrist. This is very interesting. You know, when I was about 16. And I had no desire to see any, psychiatrist. And this man turned out to be my first mentor. His name was Jim. And he was able to show me that my intuitions were precious things, and that for me to get healthy and whole, I had to come to grips with my visitation from my grandfather. I had to come to grips with my intuitions and picking up things. And he helped me. For the very first person, and this is so important in this area of intuition, that you're seen, and that you're not judged, and that you can begin to work with it then. And he was the first person. I cannot tell you how important this man was to me in my own development. And it was interesting because Jim died in the last couple of years. So we kept in touch over the years. And when he died, his wife called me to come to the memorial at his home. And I went. And it was quite beautiful. And then that night I had a dream about him. And in the dream I was back in his family's home. And he was there, but I was the only one who could see him. And I said to Jim, "Are you dead?" And he looked at me and he said, "I don't really see it that way." You see how it works? There's a cosmic humor to things. It's really, here we are with our linear minds trying to analyze the world and make the best of our lives and deal with all the challenges that come up. And we're trying to analyze everything, and we just can't. The kinds of things like, I don't see it that way. You can't analyze yourself there. The only way you can get there is through an intuitive knowing, or through a dream, or through a hunch, or through a flash, or through music.